A number of newspapers in the United States came out with headlines saying Hantavirus killed Gene Hackman, and today it's sailing across the Atlantic. What kind of virus is this? Who let him sail on a ship that docks at a bunch of ports around the world? The second story that's stirring up America today is, of course, about how Mamdani, our beloved mayor of New York, is sinking. Well, as it was written in one online store, in his own mess, scientifically speaking, he's a moral marauder and a scoundrel. Why is he a scoundrel? He's sinking, in short. The reason is this. Without other people's money, socialism is doomed. And we'll look into this story that's amusing for us, but not at all amusing for the residents of New York. But let's start with the horror called, what's it called again? Hantavirus. So on February 26, 2025 in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in a large house on the mountainside, the bodies of 2 people and one of their dogs were found. You will recognize one of these people from the photograph. This is Gene Hackman, a 2-time Oscar winner, probably one of the greatest American actors of the 20th century. Next to him is his wife, Betsy Arakawa, a Japanese-American pianist. So he was 95 and she was 65. The first thing you probably thought was COVID, right? Or maybe gas or a heart attack. No, nothing like that. No one thought of what actually turned out to be true. So Betsy Arakawa was killed by Hantavirus, a virus transmitted by mice. Before it was bats, now it's just mice. A virus that most Americans heard about for the first time on that very day. We don't know, maybe it was created by the same group that created the coronavirus. Maybe it was funded by America. And then, like the coronavirus, it was passed on to China or God knows where else. And so, my friends, 14 months after Betsy's death, the same class of viruses, by the way, a more dangerous strain, caused an outbreak on a cruise ship in the middle of the Atlantic near Antarctica. This is the story everyone is talking about today. Today I'll tell you how they died, what happened on the ship, why this could become a new and more terrifying COVID, and I'll explain why it's more terrifying. And what should we be doing today to avoid repeating the mistakes of 2020? In the middle of this video, I'll reveal to you the most alarming detail about this Andes strain, as they call it, the strain of this very virus, something that the hantavirus that killed Betsy Arakawa a year and a half ago couldn't do. That is, the new variant is already doing more. You will understand why the authorities of the Canary Islands refused to allow a ship with infected passengers to enter their port. If you value serious analysis in Russian, subscribe and click the bell, share, let's move on. February 2025, Santa Fe. No one has answered the phone at the Hackman's house for a week. The neighbors are worried. 2 mail carriers leave packages, but no one picks them up. On February 26th, the technician comes to check the safety of the house and finds them. The body of Betsy Arakawa is on the bathroom floor with thyroid medication nearby. The body of Gene Hackman is in the hallway by the door, as if he was trying to reach it. Next to him are a cane and a dog, one of 3 dogs, one of them dead. At first, the police suspected carbon monoxide, then something to do with electricity. Only after 2 weeks did the pathologist determine the truth. Betsy died around February 12th, which is about 2 weeks before the bodies were found. The cause was hantavirus. That is, it was also a pulmonary syndrome, similar to what we saw with coronavirus. This is a rare disease that is transmitted by rodents in the United States, mainly deer mice. For the first time, there were less than 20 cases per year on average across the country, with a high mortality rate. And here, gentlemen, I was floored, up to 50%. This isn't like the coronavirus. This isn't 10 out of 1,000 people. This is 500 out of 1,000. On Betsy's computer, investigators found searches and queries. In the days before her death, she was looking up whether COVID could cause dizziness, flu symptoms, and nosebleeds. trying to figure out what was happening to her, but she couldn't and didn't call anyone. The main thing is she didn't realize it could be something more serious than just the flu. And Gene Hackman, who had Alzheimer's disease and severe heart failure, was left alone in the house with his dead wife and 2 other dogs without any help. He might not have even understood what had happened. He died about a week later. The man lived for about a week after his wife passed away, well, from heart failure. This story shocked America. A great actor forgotten because of the illness that took his wife. Hantavirus is a word that only a few people knew before. Epidemiologists used to be the only ones who knew it. Then it became a household word. Now, 14 months later, the same class of viruses, only stronger, is back in the news. A cruise ship, MV Hondi Dutch, 147 passengers and crew, route South America, Atlantic, Canary Islands, Europe. Among the passengers is a Dutch married couple, enthusiasts of ornithology. Before boarding the ship, they took a tour of nature reserves in Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay. Among the places they visited was the area where the long-tailed colilau lives. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time I've heard of this. The South American mouse, as it turned out, is the main carrier of the Andes virus, the very strain we're talking about. They boarded the ship, and the ship set out into the Atlantic during the first week of the voyage. The couple began complaining of symptoms: fever, weakness, stomach upset. The ship's doctor suspected food poisoning. Maybe the treatment was symptomatic. By the end of the second week, both of them had died, and then other passengers and 1 crew member started getting sick. By the time the ship approached the Canary Islands, the captain had 7 sick people and 3 bodies. The Dutch couple and 1 German citizen. The captain requested permission to put in at the port of Santa Cruz. I always have trouble with foreign names. The Canary Islands authorities denied the request. This became the main shocking news of the last 3 days in the European Union. They closed the port to a ship with dead passengers and sick people on board, a sort of modern ghost ship. The question is, why? Because laboratory tests conducted by the World Health Organization confirmed this is not coronavirus, this is not food poisoning, this is a strain of the Andes Hantavirus. And here is the alarming detail I promised you. The Andes virus is transmitted from person to person. Unlike the Hantavirus that killed Betsy, the Sin Nombre strain, which is transmitted only from mice to humans, the Andes strain can be transmitted from person to person. These are the only hantaviruses known to science that are capable of this, person to person. With close and prolonged contact. I don't know why, but that's what it says. With close and prolonged contact, that is, with quick contact. Close but quick doesn't work. Could it be that curious biologists and pharmacologists, those same ones in white coats, worked on this? That's why the Canary Islands denied entry to the port. That's why Switzerland has already confirmed a new case in a passenger named Sachetsov from one of the earlier ports. That's why California and 3 other American states are now tracking their residents who were on that very ship. That's why the WHO issued an emergency warning to all countries. So basically, panic has already started, as they say. The ship has turned into a floating hotspot. Well, just imagine the people there, right? Sitting on that ship. 147 people minus 3, that's 144. And nothing. They can't get off or get on, nothing. 3 passengers were evacuated by helicopter to a hospital in Tenerife. The rest remain on board in quarantine. The ship is heading out to sea. It will wait for a decision. And here is the central question that everyone is asking today. Is this a new epidemic? Is this a new pandemic? I'll be honest, the parallels on the surface are very strong. A cruise ship with an outbreak. Well, like the Diamond Princess. What year was that again? In 2020. Passengers who spread around the world before the diagnosis. High mortality rate. I think it's about 25 times higher. Human-to-human transmission. That means emergency response. Countries are in panic. The World Health Organization is issuing some kind of guidelines. With the coronavirus, they were completely contradictory to each other. It was all kind of bizarre. But if you dig deeper, there are fundamental differences, and honestly, they really make you think that it's not the case, as nightmarish as it could have turned out. The first difference, COVID was transmitted through airborne droplets, easily, over long distances, several meters, in the subway, in stores, in restaurants. Hantavirus, the Andes strain, this one, only through close contact. And again, they write about prolonged contact, usually among family members or sexual partners. This is not pneumonia transmitted through the air, in any enclosed space. The second difference. In the history of the Andes virus, over 30 years of observation, fewer than 300 cases of human-to-human transmission have been documented. Fewer than 300. In 30 years. Worldwide, COVID cases in the first year reached hundreds of millions, but we still don't know for sure. If our guys, lads, and girls did their best, then maybe now it spreads better and more easily. The third difference, we know what to look for. We know how to support the infected person. We know the source is mice. We know the geography, the Andes. This is not some mysterious new pathogen. This is a known enemy that has been tracked by epidemiologists for 30 years again, unless it was helped. Right now, they're trying to figure this out, whether there was human involvement or not. The fourth difference, in the US, it's been around since 1925 after the death of Betsy. Vaccine research against hantavirus is already underway. Laboratories and academic institutes are working on this. It's not starting from scratch like it was with COVID, when a whole group of investigators were aware, but kept silent as if their mouths were sealed. Because they participated in its creation, that's why they didn't want to speak up. We're only just now starting to get to the bottom of this. So, my friends, this is not a new COVID. It could be something completely different. Because again, the mortality rate is 50%, but this is not a new COVID. The only threat, especially for passengers who disembarked from the ship and are now scattered across several countries. They need to be found. This is necessary for them and for everyone they have close and prolonged contact with. What does prolonged mean? It's unclear. More than 4 minutes or less. And in this regard, the global healthcare system is working much faster than it did in January 2020. And here, my friends, I want to address you directly. In 2020, when COVID started, all of us, regardless of which country we were in, went through the same experience. The experience of how the fear of disease turns into a tool of political coercion. I love them, our leaders, our rulers. Lockdowns, bans, forced vaccinations, closing of churches, prohibition of demonstrations. Honestly, if you were governor, you could take your friends to a restaurant and remove all the masks. That's a different story. Or if you were the Speaker of Parliament, you could easily go around without a mask in front of everyone, and then you could come in, take off your mask, and talk without it to the people who were giving you all sorts of cosmetic procedures. Because, well, obviously nothing sticks to the Speaker of Parliament or the governor, because disease doesn't stick to disease. So everything that happened to us, including censorship on social media, the destruction of small businesses remained under the banner of public health. They wanted to say public good, but then decided it would sound too much like the USSR. That's why they said public health. Or the health of the public good, or the good of public health. Who knows? By the way, coming back to, well, Muscovy, Berdyaev, in his work, The Origins and Meaning of Russian Communism, had an interesting work by that title. He wrote, "The most terrible tyrannies are born not from the tyrant, but from the fear of the masses who are ready to give up their freedom for promises of security." And continuing on this, Benjamin Franklin, who was naturally well acquainted with Berdyayev's work, said, "In fact, it's even simpler." He said, "Those who give up liberty for security will get neither." Today, when we see headlines about ships, about quarantine, about closed ports, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to repeat 2020? Are we ready to close schools again? It's not clear why. There you go. They're ready to vaccinate the children. They have animal-level immunity. No, they had to destroy that immunity in order to make more money. Honestly, it's good money, $100 to $200 billion. Are you ready to let the government have the power again to ban gatherings, movement, and trade? Because scary headlines appear. Personally, I'm not.
Я очень надеюсь, что многие из вас
They'll say no. And I have an optimistic conclusion, strangely enough, right? Hantavirus is, thank God, a known threat. Scientists have known about it for 30 years. Hospitals can diagnose it within hours. Prevention is simply to avoid contact with rodents and their excretions. Treatment is supportive, but modern intensive care units handle most cases if the person gets to the hospital in time. The lessons from COVID are already working. Epidemiologists responded relatively quickly, let's put it that way. Passengers are being tracked. Close contacts are under observation. Vaccine research is underway. All the countries of the world are receiving data simultaneously and exchanging it. And this is not January 2020 because back then there was panic. People were gripped by panic. Well, honestly, it was seriously blown out of proportion by some interested parties, I would say. If the Hantavirus, this very Andes virus, gives us one important lesson, it will be that an informed society deals with problems much better than a frightened society. In general, when the crowd is scared, knowledge is better than fear. Understanding is better than coercion. A free individual is better than a controlled mass. And that is the main point. A free individual is better than a controlled mass for us, but not for the government. A controlled mass is better. And this, well, basically is the root of our disagreements with any rulers who try to control us. We elect them to protect us, but right away they try to control us and boss us around. Betsy Arakawa died alone because she didn't understand what was happening to her. A Dutch couple died on a ship because they didn't know what they had brought with them from Argentina. That's why knowledge is protection. And that's why I'm actually making this program. It's not just about medicine. Well, now let's get back to the promised communo-fascist Mamdani. Let's repeat once again the very important statement we made, and it goes like this. Without other people's money, socialism
социализму
kaput. The first year of a mayoral term is usually like a honeymoon between the newly elected mayor and the people who voted for him. Here's Eric Adams, a mediocre mayor of New York. He was at home, his home in Mamdani. In May, after the elections, he had about 59 to 60% approval. Then things started to go down, but at that moment he had 60%. And Mamdani today, that is at the same time, is 17 points lower. That is 43%. For a city, that's very little. For a country, it's measured differently. But for a city, that's very little, especially during the honeymoon period. And the trust in Mamdani is falling, well, I don't know, it seems like daily. Every time I see a new poll, boom, a little bit more, boom, a little bit more. People have started to realize that they were blatantly and shamelessly deceived in this matter. That what was promised won't take 3 years to arrive, but will never arrive. That's quite a big difference. Waiting for a promise for 3 years and waiting for a promise that will never come. That it won't be free. In fact, there won't be anything at all. And that taxes will go up for everyone who earns anything. And they're not just on some mythical billionaires. So, once again, the fools have been tricked. And in exactly the same way, in the same place. Absolutely the same as before. Tricked again. Why, you may ask? Because they're fools. That's why they got tricked again. For socialism to work, someone has to be robbed. Well, it's so easy to understand. Socialism doesn't produce enough material wealth to provide for everyone, so someone has to be robbed. And in the case of New York, it means these people who to rob. When the whites come, they'll rob. When the reds come, they'll rob. They just run away. Where do they run to? It's simple. They run away to other states where there aren't crazy taxes like in New York, where there isn't a policy, so to speak, of not arresting illegals, where they clean up the trash on the streets, and basically where passersby aren't being killed. These places turned out to be in other states, in other cities, and regions, which are governed by Republicans. That means Republicans elected by the people, not Democrats who cheated in the elections. Things are so bad that Mamdani admitted that not everything he promised is working out for him. Well, not everything.
Most populous city. The most densely populated city, a bankrupt city. He had to admit it. He is slowly but surely admitting that he won't even come close to fulfilling a tenth of his promises. So things aren't going well for Mamdani. In fact, things are going catastrophically badly, unbelievably badly by historical standards.
These are code words meaning, basically, I'm asking for a couple more years, and then I'll start lying about something completely different, and you'll believe me again. And here he is, our hero.
When I was running for mayor, I promised to tax the rich. Сегодня мы вводим налог на богатых. Впервые в истории Нью-Йорка мы ввели сбор на второе жилье. Это ежегодный налог на элитную недвижимость от $5 миллионов, где владельцы не живут. Возьмем пентхаус, купленный главой хедж-фонда Кином Гриффином за 238 миллионов. Налог на второе жилье бьет по богачам, хранящим капитал, but not those who actually live here. Meanwhile, they reap huge benefits by owning property in the greatest city in the world. The apartments are empty since the owners don't live here. This system is unfair to working New Yorkers. This ends now. The tax will bring $500 million to the budget. The money will go toward kindergartens, cleanliness, and safety. As mayor, I believe everyone should help the city, and some people a little more.
What? Let's go and rob the people who bought houses and apartments in New York of $500 million. Because we drove all the manufacturing out of the city, we don't get enough taxes, and we really want to get money from somewhere, and as much as possible. And today we'll rob these people, and tomorrow we'll rob someone else.
What a psycho. Seriously, we're talking about the smiling killer. I mean, only a Democrat can find joy and pleasure in raising taxes on their fellow citizens. As you heard in this building, Citadel Chief Ken Griffin paid $238 million for a 30-story penthouse on the 79th floor. Griffin was in Florida when Mamdani's video went viral. He didn't see that video for several hours. But somewhere in the Citadel management, they were already drafting a letter that would derail a $6 billion construction project and send shockwaves through every city council. Among governors and mayors across the country who support taxes on the wealthy, April 23rd. Citadel reported on an internal memo from Citadel's chief operating officer, Gerald Bond, which was sent to all of the company's New York employees, in which Mamdani's attacks on Griffin were called shameful, and the mayor was accused of ignorance and disdain. And then, somewhere deep within that memo, was hidden the fate of Citadel's large-scale skyscraper project at 350 Park Avenue. This project was officially put on hold. Instead, Griffin is officially expanding his headquarters in Miami, leaving behind the madness that has engulfed New York.
That is, by telling himself this vile creature won't stop, but will continue to rob and steal. So we're going to build a building for, I don't remember, $1 billion, $2 billion, however much it was supposed to cost. Not in New York, but in Miami. And we will transfer most of our main office employees from New York to other locations. That's several billion in taxes that will now go directly into the treasury of the city and state of New York. There you have it. If the mayor is a fool or a thief or just a despicable liar, then those who elected him suffer. Well, that's fair, right? You are fools, and for being fools, you should be punished. He'll want to take away what he has stolen. That's it, and we'll take our belongings away, far from you, so there will be nothing left for you to steal.
Thank you. In the end, we ended up going to Miami and revising the project to make the office building larger. Are you leaving? The question of what to do with 350 city is still a matter of debate. However, Miami is no longer up for any discussion in this regard. When we decided to move from Chicago, we had to choose between New York and Miami. We definitely made the right decision. That's probably all there is to say. Our choice was absolutely correct. And now what the mayor of New York made clear to my partner, and above all to my New York partner, is that we need to double down in Miami. Because we want to be in a state that welcomes business, that welcomes education, that welcomes personal freedom and independence. And this gives people the opportunity to make the American dream come true.
Bravo. If you chose a communo-fascist, well, reap the fruits of your decision. Live in filth, dirt, drugs, murders, and crimes on the streets. Just like downtown Chicago already does, just like downtown San Francisco already does, just like all of Detroit, Memphis, and St. Louis do. Baltimore, Berlin, we love them. Everyone understands this. Yes, everyone can see it, and it's clear to everyone. And it's easy to find out that all these are cities that have been run by Democrats for years, for decades. They keep getting elected because people hope that this time they'll manage to steal something or get money from the Democratic government sitting in Washington, money that was taken from the working states. And very quickly, they transferred it to those cities, dragged it over where there's all this mess. Everyone is getting robbed. And thanks to distributing what was stolen, they keep getting elected again and again. Well, that's called communo-fascism, yes. So, all these cities I mentioned are run by Democrats, and now they're being replaced not just by Democrats, but by socialist Democrats or democratic socialists. Well, actually neo-fascists, or as we call them, communo-fascists. Besides, New York, Seattle, and Atlanta also elected the same kind of people New York did. In Portland, it's not officially declared, but the exact same policies are in place there. They just don't say, I'm a communist, I'm a fascist, I'm a socialist. No, he pretends that's not the case, but in reality, it's all the same. That Mamdani got caught up in his own promises, or that Mamdani is in trouble up to his neck, or Mamdani is drowning in his own lies, well, people have started saying things like that to each other. Yeah. And New York suckers believe any simpleton as long as they say words like imperialism or colonialism, racism, Trumpism. Yeah, and spit and spray would fly from their mouths. They didn't study in school. I mean, formally, of course, they went there, but they didn't learn anything except memorizing slogans. They won't even understand you if you tell them, socialism only works when it operates with other people's stolen money, and then they start squeezing those who voted for it, the people, the masses, the plebs, and then you get Lubyanka-style repression. And right after that, they immediately start deporting people somewhere, gulags, correctional camps, as they were called in some other places, yes. They call them different things, but they're all the same. Tools for teaching idiots a lesson. And then you get people like Ceausescu, Pol Pot, Stalin, Mao Zedong, Obama, Biden. That's it. All this crap comes up.
Right now, the economy of the red states, which is business-oriented, is on the rise, leaving the blue states, including New York, behind. The reality is, business is fleeing New York under this idiotic ideological regime.
It's very simple. If you don't let us make money in your city, we'll move to where we're welcome. And they show it not just with gestures and smiles, but by at least not putting obstacles in the way of business. And if leaving is impossible, then people stop trying because their motivation is taken away, which means they work less. And since they work less and put in less effort, they earn less. That explains it. Why? Why do the city and state get less in what they call taxes, but what we call robbery? The more you take from us, Vasya. Vasya is Mamdani too, right? You get less. It's an amazing thing. Kind of the opposite. Oh, we used to take 10%. Now we'll take 15% and get 50% more. But it doesn't work like that at all. You say, I'm going to take more from you now, but automatically tomorrow you start getting less revenue. All right, so to speak, some people already know this, and for others, whether you tell them or not, explain it or not, it still won't get through to them. Well, that means everything good, including our show, is coming to an end. And thank you for watching up to this point. If you found this program useful, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to click the bell, and share this video. This is the best way to spread knowledge. And as we've just seen, knowledge is the best protection. See you next time, including Mamdani and Mamdani. This has been Leon Vainstein. Take care of yourselves. Don't be afraid, but don't ignore things either. I'm talking about COVID and other things. See you next time.